Right now, somewhere in your house, there is a room built entirely around one function. It has a door, it has privacy, it probably has a fan. You don't think about it. You just walk in, do your business, and walk out. But for most of human history, that room did not exist. There was no door. There was no privacy. And the way your ancestors handled this most basic of needs shaped disease, death, cities, and even the microbes living in your gut right now. Your body has been doing this for millions of years. Long before toilets, long before paper, long before soap. So what did people actually start 2 million years ago? Your earliest ancestors were nomadic. They moved with the seasons, following herds and ripening plants. When nature called, they simply walked a short distance from camp and went. No ritual, no shame, just biology, handled quickly, then forgotten. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups like the Hadza of Tanzania see this same pattern today. Waste gets left behind, the group moves on. The forest, or the savanna, absorbs it within days. That sounds simple, but it was also brilliant, because moving camp constantly meant waste never had time to build up. Pathogens never had a chance to establish a foothold. Small, mobile groups were, without knowing it, practicing one of the most effective sanitation strategies humans have ever used. Distance and dispersal, nothing more. Then something changed everything. Around 12,000 years ago, humans started staying in one place. Agriculture meant settlements. Settlements meant staying near your fields, your animals, your stored grain. And staying in one place meant something new and dangerous. Waste no longer disappeared into the wilderness. It piled up, right outside your door. This is where the real story begins. Archaeologist Carl Reinhard has spent decades studying something most people would never think to examine: ancient human feces. Preserved waste, called coprolites, found in dry caves and old latrine pits. Reinhard's research shows that as soon as humans settled into farming villages, parasite loads exploded. Roundworm eggs, whipworm eggs, evidence of tapeworms passed through poorly cooked meat. The very thing that made agriculture possible, permanent settlement, also made humans sick in ways their nomadic ancestors rarely were. Why? Because once you stop moving, your waste stops leaving with you. Early farming communities dealt with this the only way they knew how. Designated dumping areas outside the village, sometimes a pit, sometimes just a familiar patch of ground everyone silently agreed to use. It wasn't elegant, but it was an attempt at control. Humans were already sensing, instinctively, that waste and water needed to stay apart. They just didn't fully understand why yet. Fast forward to the great river civilizations, Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, and here, something remarkable appears. Actual plumbing. Excavations at Mohenjo-daro, a Bronze Age city in the Indus Valley, reveal something startling. Brick-lined drains running beneath the streets, individual homes with their own bathing areas connected to a citywide sewage system. This was over 4,000 years ago, long before Rome, long before anyone had a word for sanitation engineering. Someone had already figured out that keeping waste moving, away from people, away from drinking water, saved lives. Did they understand germs? No. Germ theory was thousands of years away, but they understood something almost as powerful. Smell meant danger. Standing water meant sickness. And so, without a microscope in sight, some of the earliest cities on Earth built infrastructure that wouldn't look out of place in a modern textbook. Now picture Rome. Because Rome took this obsession and turned it into a spectacle. The Romans built massive public latrines. Long stone benches with keyhole-shaped openings cut side by side, no dividers, no privacy at all. Strangers sat shoulder to shoulder, chatting, doing business, while water flowed beneath them through a channel connected to the sewer system. It was social. It was communal. It was, by our standards, deeply strange. And here's the detail that always surprises people. Instead of paper, Romans often used a tersorium, a sea sponge fixed to the end of a stick. After use, the sponge was rinsed in a trough of running water, sometimes vinegar or salt water, and left for the next person, Historian Piers Mitchell, who studies ancient hygiene and disease at the University of Cambridge, has examined skeletal and parasite evidence from Roman-era sites across the empire. His research found something that should have been a public health triumph. Rome had sewers. Rome had public toilets. Rome even had running water in many of its facilities. And yet parasite rates barely improved compared to smaller, less developed settlements. Sometimes they were worse. Why would that be? Shouldn't better infrastructure mean fewer worms, fewer infections? Here's the twist. Rome's sewers weren't primarily built for public health. They were built for flood control and to remove unpleasant smells from wealthy neighborhoods. Waste still contaminated water sources. Shared sponges spread parasites and bacteria from one person directly to the next. Public latrines, despite looking advanced, may have actually helped disease travel faster between people, not slower. Infrastructure without understanding is just plumbing. It is not, on its own, protection. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, entirely different solutions were emerging. In parts of ancient China, waste wasn't just disposed of, it was recycled. Human waste, collected and aged, became fertilizer for crops. This practice, sometimes called night soil collection, turned what other cultures saw as a hazard into an agricultural resource. It solved two problems using one substance. Where did the waste go? Back into the fields that grew your food. Efficient, circular, and, if not handled carefully, its own source of contamination. Back in North America, researcher Vaughn Bryant, a palynologist at Texas A&M University, spent years analyzing ancient coprolites from Hines Cave in Texas. What he found wasn't just evidence of where people relieved themselves. It was a time capsule of what they ate. Seeds, pollen, tiny animal bones. Every ancient bathroom stop, it turns out, was accidentally also a diary entry, preserved for thousands of years in dry cave sediment, waiting for someone with a microscope to read it. Think about that for a moment. The most mundane, most avoided part of daily life became one of archaeology's richest sources of information. What people ate, what diseases they carried, how far they traveled. All of it, recorded in something nobody ever intended to leave behind as a record. By the medieval period in Europe, things regressed in some places. Chamber pots emptied out of upper-story windows into the street below with a shouted warning if you were lucky. Castles built garderobes, small stone alcoves jutting out from the walls, waste dropping straight into the moat or a pit below. Practical? Somewhat. Pleasant? Not remotely. It wasn't until the 19th century, with the widespread understanding of germ theory and the work of sanitation reformers, that cities began building sewage systems designed specifically to protect health, not just remove odor. That single shift in understanding waste carries invisible danger, changed more human lives than almost any medical breakthrough before it. So why does any of this matter to you, scrolling on your phone, sitting in a private bathroom with a door that locks? Because your instincts are older than your indoor plumbing. That flicker of discomfort you feel using a public restroom, that automatic urge for privacy, that's not modern anxiety. That's a body still running ancient software, shaped by 100,000 years of watching diseases spread when waste and people got too close. Your gut microbiome itself, the trillions of bacteria helping you digest food right now, was shaped generation after generation by exactly how your ancestors handled this exact problem. You flush a handle, clean water rushes in. The problem and the smell and the risk disappears in seconds. It feels automatic. It feels obvious. It is neither. It is the end result of 2 million years of trial, error, disease, and quiet genius. From a nomadic band walking a few steps from camp, to a Bronze Age city with drains under its streets, to a Roman sponge on a stick, to a scientist sifting through fossilized waste in a Texas cave to figure out what a stranger ate 10,000 years ago. Right now, somewhere in your house, there is a room built entirely around one function. And now you know. It's not just a room. It's the final chapter in humanity's longest, strangest, most overlooked engineering project.